Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Hari Bol.
Jai Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Bhakta Brinde ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Chaitanyamanoභीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So if everyone has that verse pulled up, those of you who have that verse pulled up, yes. I will be chanting that verse. You can just follow. I'm not going to ask you to respond back by chanting it back. All right. I just want you to follow the verse and its meaning. Is that all right? Okay. So we are in the month of Margashirsha. This is a very auspicious month. This is a month where we worship Shri Krishna by remembering his wonderful pastimes. There are various vratas or austerities that one can perform in this particular month. Yes. According to the Vedic calendar, this is sometimes considered to be the first month of the new year. Yes. So it is also called as Margadi month. First, Adi is first, the beginning. Anyways, so this is a great fortune that all of us have come together. And especially, I feel very, very grateful to have this opportunity to speak about Krishna consciousness. So I'll recite this verse and also read the translation so that we know what the verse means. Shri Prahlad Uvacha No, you don't have to respond. Just follow the verse. Otherwise, it will take a lot of time. Varam varayae tatte varadeshan maheshwara yadanindat pita me tvam avidvam steja aishwaram Viddhamarshashaya sakshat sarvaloka gurum prabhum atriheti mrisha drishtis tvadbhakte mai chaghavan tasmat pita me puyeta durantad dustaradaghat utaste panga samdrishtas tada kripana vatsalah tada kripana vatsalah. Translation. So it's a long translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you are so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him. But because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus, he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all beings, and committed heavenly sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. Were you following along with me? Or some of you were lost? You're just waiting for me to finish the translation. So if you are just waiting for me to finish the translation, let me summarize. Prahlad Maharaj is revered as a devotee of Lord Vishnu. He is also revered as a Mahajana, or a great personality on whose footsteps one can aspire to follow to achieve the goal of life. Prahlad Maharaj is also a king, King Prahlad. When he spoke these words, the context is that his father, who was a very powerful personality, had just come or had just ended his life as the father of Prahlad. His life was done. He was dead. And he had died at the hands of Bhagavan, the hands of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. God is the source of everything. Bhagavan is the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate. Everything comes from me. All that is in existence, I am the source of it. Iti matva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanvita. To be able to understand this principle is indeed very fortunate. Such persons are considered to be intelligent. Buddha bhava samanvita. So Krishna is also, or the Supreme Lord is also the source of life, the source of death, in terms of the body being born and the body dying. Death may seem inauspicious to many people. However, let me give you an example. How many of us have the Wi-Fi at home? Please raise up your hands. At home, Wi-Fi at home. Everyone has? God, that was a stupid question, wasn't it? Everyone has a Wi-Fi at home. Everyone has net facility on their phones. So you're well connected, isn't it? Well connected with data. Supposing your router, your Wi-Fi at home starts misbehaving. It freezes. What do you do? Typically, you may, yes, restart or reset it. Isn't it? So similarly, when the connectivity with the creation around us is frozen up, we need a reset. We need to restart. So who pushes the button of restart? Krishna. So we die and there is restart. You like that analogy? Hence, from the philosophical point of view, death gives us one more chance if we have not fulfilled our destiny. Now you may say, how does death give a chance? Because at death, everything is finished. Yes, that gives us a chance so that we can start fresh. We have messed up things. When we were given a chance in life, we messed it up. There are a few things that went all right. A lot of things did not go all right. Now, since the things that did not go all right bring about a lot of emotional baggage, psychologically, it is not healthy for a living being to have so much of emotional baggage. So they need to start fresh. That is what death does. When you have a lot of emotional trauma, then your physical body also reflects that. The body is unhealthy. Your energy level is low. And when your energy level is low, your body becomes unhealthy, then slowly the body becomes less and less functional. It's not possible to rejuvenate the body again, rejuvenate it. So that you can say, oh, let me become a young person once again. That is not possible. Therefore, at death, one is given a chance again. Yeah. So those who are intelligent, they try to fix things in life. Those who are intelligent, they try to make the best use of the time that they have. Sometimes being caught up in so many distractions, we may lose that opportunity. So we are given another birth. Okay. So God is the source of death too. Hence, one should not feel offended, thinking that how can God be the source of death too? It is just him pressing the reset button. Okay. So we have finite existence in this body from birth to death. Hiranyakashipu really messed up his life. So whenever there is danger to people or danger to society, such that productive people are stopped from working and no one can stop them, and Krishna has to appear to stop them. Stop whom? Those who are creating hindrances for productive people in society. So according to the Gita, the productive people in society are called as sadhu. Paritranaya sadhuna, Krishna therefore says, I come to give protection to those who add value to society, whose existence adds value to society. They are called as sadhu. Vinashaya cha dushkritam. Those who are bent upon seeking their own self-interest at the cost of others' existence, because of their selfish approach in life, they make others feel suffocated, and there is no one who can stop them. Then Krishna appears to stop them. So to protect the sadhus and to stop the miscreants, he appears. So Hiranyakashipu was top-notch miscreant. So the Lord appeared as Nrsimhadev. He was creating a lot of problem for society. At the same time, he was particularly targeting his son, Prahlad. Very much. Very cruel-hearted. And he was immensely powerful. So therefore, Krishna had to appear. So after he appeared and Hiranyakashipu was dead, all the sane-minded people felt relieved. And Prahlad, he went to offer his respects to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord saw him, and seeing him peaceful, seeing him safe, the Lord was pacified. So to have good TRP ratings, I need you to ask a boon. I mean, already he was in the limelight. All the channels were reporting the defeat of Hiranyakashipu and the victory of Nrsimhadev. But that is not what we want to remember Nrsimhadev for. That is not the only reason. We also want to remember him, or remember about him, that he gives boons. We all have this fruitive mentality, no? Give, take. So we need to take. So if he had not given a boon, then we are like, all right, he helped Prahlad, but what about us? So Nrsimhadev, he says, Prahlad, please ask a boon. So there's a long discussion, but towards the end of it, this is the boon that Prahlad asks for. What does he ask for? He says, my dear Lord, I wish that he be excused for his sinful activities. Putaste apang sangdrishtah kada kripanavatsal. Your kripanavatsal. Today I was thinking about how I should, what title I should give to my presentation. So I looked at this word, kripanavatsala, and I said, all right, thoughtful compassion. Maybe I should have said mindful compassion. Mindful compassion. Thoughtful, mindful. Many times compassion seems to be very passive. People have a very passive understanding of compassion. It's like, because if you have a good heart, you can be compassionate. So all you need to do is dust off your heart, make it good, and compassion will be there. Compassion has to do a lot with intelligence. Prabhupada gives a very simple example. He says, being very compassionate, we go to a hospital and we see that they have patients there, they're suffering. So we want to lighten up the mood. So we start distributing sweets. And there is a disaster because that is a diabetic ward. We did not notice that. So Prabhupada says, you have eyes, not just the physical eyes, the eyes of intelligence. So understand how to be compassionate. Yes. So thoughtful compassion. So Prahlad is being very thoughtful here. Putaste, puta means purify. Please purify my father of all of his sinful activities. Now, because the Supreme Lord had personally interfered in Hiranyakashipu's life, Hiranyakashipu got some unknown credits. Just like you file your tax and you get some unknown credits. They say that, yeah, there's some, you file your tax returns and you get rebate. And you're like, oh, this is nice. So the Supreme Lord had accepted the tax forms of Hiranyakashipu. There was no rebate coming because there was nothing that qualified him for a rebate. He was a defaulter since ever. So Prahlad says that just by seeing you, by glancing at you, my father has been benefited. This is an interesting statement. It is the greatest of fortune to see the form of the Lord, either in the form of the deity or in the form of the holy names or in the form of the holy book, pictures of the Supreme Lord. Great fortune. Why? Because as soon as you see the form of the Lord, immediately there is supplication in your heart. You want to offer something. You want to offer respects, or you acknowledge the presence of the Lord. So visualization is very, very helpful. So Hiranyakashipu was benefited. That is what Prahlad says, that my father was benefited by glancing upon him. But the way he died is not helpful for him to get a rebate. When they forcefully come to you and say, all right, you have to file taxes or you have to pay your taxes, like, all right, okay, take taxes, go take. So that is what happened with Hiranyakashipu. So there's no rebate. So Prahlad says, I want rebate for my father. He says, please purify him of those seeds of sinful intent that he has. Purify him. Now, this is so thoughtful from a very practical point of view. From a very practical point of view, let us wonder if Hiranyakashipu were existent right now and he were walking down the street and he knocks on this door and he comes in, what do you think is going to happen? So Prahlad thought that thousands of years from now, when some honest people are going to come together, what is the street here? Vishnu? When some honest people are going to come together for a satsang on Hickory Knoll Road or street, Hiranyakashipu, even if he happens to come there, his heart should be transformed. He should have a different approach to philosophy. Otherwise, he can create disturbance. So Prahlad is not only thinking about Hiranyakashipu, he is thinking of all of us. One less sinful person in the world is really helpful. Did we ever look at it from this point of view? Just consider if Hiranyakashipu would come again and again, birth after birth, because obviously he has qualified himself to do that by his sins. We would be in trouble. So every time you hear about Prahlad, offer him at least a few obeisances for stopping Hiranyakashipu right there. So a devotee is really very compassionate, because a devotee, by knowingly or unknowingly, by his actions or her actions, saves the future of the world. So Hiranyakashipu is benefited, and the rest of the world is also benefited. Yes. Srila Prabhupada in his purport says something very, very interesting. He says, Prahlad Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by the Lord's causeless mercy. So it is an accepted fact, as Prabhupada says, although Hiranyakashipu was purified as soon as he came in contact with the Lord's lap, and the Lord saw him, Prahlad Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by the Lord's causeless mercy, so that Prahlad Maharaj could send an email to all of us. It's safe. The Lord himself has said, this is the end of Hiranyakashipu's tyranny. Done. And another reason is that he wanted that to let the world know through the Lord's mouth that the Lord's blessings are available for everyone, including his father too. We do not need to use our discrimination in this sense to come to this realization. Direct. Pratyaksha Praman. Direct reference. The Supreme Lord said, this is the Lord's words in reply to Prahlad. He says, my dear Prahlad, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified. Imagine. What if Hiranyakashipu was not the only, bad apple in the basket? What if 21 generations have around him? So the Lord is blessing Prahlad's dynasty, and all of us too, for all times to come, by giving Hiranyakashipu liberation and Prahlad's forefathers liberation. So the Lord is the supreme purifier. All right. So I thought this would be interesting for all of us to meditate on, that how we have been benefited by Prahlad asking for a boon for his father. Think about it. Once upon a time, a king, along with his retinue, a few people, was touring his capital, was touring his kingdom. So the king was there on his chariot. He had his ministers, soldiers, and there is a big party going on. Party in the sense, a big retinue of people. So they are announcing that the king is coming down that road. So everyone is aware. Suddenly, a stone flies through the air and hits the king right on his forehead. And there's a deep cut. Is that dramatic? I can see everyone more interested in this story than Hiranyakashipu's rendition. So what's next now? I have to savor this moment. because suddenly I find my audience interested. There's a deep gash, a deep cut on the king's forehead. Blood is flowing freely. So his friends, ministers, they immediately run to their king and they try to do what is possible to stop the blood flow. They managed to stop the flow of the blood. Immediately, a physician is called for. And as a physician is being called for, the king is very strong and the king is very, very sober. He's just is not reacting much. However, the ministers immediately ask some of the servants and the soldiers to spread out and find out who was responsible for throwing the stone. Soldiers spread out. The physician is trying to. The physician comes and the physician is taking care of the wound. It is a deep wound because the stone really hit the king severely. There's no concussion, just a deep wound. So he's all bandaged up. The physician says, my dear king, you have to take certain medicines for some time and it should be all right. The soldiers find out the instigator, the person who had thrown the stone, and bring that person in front of the king. This is an old lady. Now I'm going to stop here for a couple of moments and let all of you come up with your own theory. Because right now some of you must be immediately trying to, theorize, come up with your story of what could be the reason that the old lady had thrown the stone. So everyone's done that. That was a good exercise. Yeah. So the king is sitting there and the lady comes. The minister asks the lady that, Grandma, did you do this? She's like, I'm so sorry. Yes, I did that. Well, you see, I have a grandson. We are very poor. She wouldn't stop. She was like so scared. She was talking non-stop. Isn't that what sometimes people do? If you're too scared, you want to explain, isn't it? Explain yourself. It wasn't me. So that is what she said. She said, we are very poor. My grandson was feeling very hungry. And it is a summer season. This is in India, summer season, or let us say Florida. The summer season, and all the mango trees are laden with juicy, ripe mangoes. So I thought that maybe if I throw a stone at the tree, it will hit a mango and the mango will fall down and I can offer it to my grandson. But I missed the mango completely and the stone flew and hit the king. I did not mean to injure the king. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And she was crying. She was fearful. And there are some people there who are feeling angry at her that it did not be intention and you hurt our king. She's like, my king, I really, really, respect you. I did not mean to disrespect you. You are our best king. The king was very loved by his subjects. Doesn't mean that if the king is loved by the subjects, then there won't be any poor people. Poverty is a different issue completely. So she was trying to explain. The king was quiet. So the minister returned to the king, and some others felt compassionate towards her, that, oh, this is an old lady. So maybe we can consider her situation and let her go. The warning. The king said, my dear minister, please find her grandson. So they immediately looked up their database, found out where the grandson is. They have all the data footprints, right? So the grandson was playing on a video. Poor enough, but children need games. And a dilapidated machine playing video games. So they tracked out IP address, they tracked immediately King's resources. So they found the grandson. Now everyone is wondering, just as you and I am wondering, what is he going to do with the grandson, right? So the king gave him mangoes to eat. Now the grandmother is feeling a little pacified. The king then gives his judgment. He says, please note the address of grandma and see that her grandson gets mangoes every day. See that they get food, sufficient food every day. And give social security to grandma. Let her have regular pension. Teach her how to use UPI. Teach her how to use the payment app, bank app. So everyone is like, oh, this is a wonderful ending to the story. Isn't it? And then the king says, so now I have to go on my journey. However, before that, I order that the grandmother should be charged with conspiracy to hurt the king, to harm the king. And she should be given the most severe punishment, which could also be death. Now, how do you like the story? Because we are used to compassion, so the story should end compassionately, no? Is the story good? Sorry?
Tragic ending.
Tragic ending. So the grandmother couldn't really understand these big words. Somebody said the king has ordered you to die, to be put to death. Oh, I did not mean to. And the next day, headlines. The king's severe judgment. So there were polls now, for, against. The king goes back to his palace. There's a trial. She's been found guilty of hurting the king. And knowingly or unknowingly, if you hurt the leader of a state, actually it is treason. You are committing a crime against the state. True? That's how state laws are. So she was given the utmost punishment. The king goes to visit her in prison. He takes the minister along. And he tells the minister, why don't you spend some time with the grandmother, give her some solace? So the minister goes into the prison cell and tells the grandmother that we'll take care of your grandson, don't worry. Because these are final moments, it should be peaceful. Is that nice? See, being so compassionate. The king personally is gone there The king is personally seeing to it that the grandmother be peaceful. And then the minister whispers something into her ears. And as soon as he whispers, the grandmother is stunned. She's shocked. She almost has a heart attack. She doesn't know what to say. It is as if she were dead right then. The minister leaves. The next day, the grandmother is being prepared for the punishment. Treason. In those days, it is until death. So they ask her, this is the policy. Do you have any last wish? She says, yes. I would request to see the king. Her last wish. So her last wish has to be fulfilled. So the king comes. She says, my dear king, you are our king. Definitely, we committed the gravest of crime against you, but we also know that as the king, you have the power to forgive. And I can file for the mercy appeal, mercy petition. So king, I filed for mercy. And the king said, forgiven. Immediately, the king says, forgiven. Minister, take a signature on the mercy petition. Right there, the king signed, the seal was done. She was free. So sometimes compassion has to be done the right way. Not sometimes, always. We cannot always have a story where the king says, forgiven, forgotten. Because then somebody under the guise of being a grandmother could also come and actually want to harm the king. Yes. The king was very intelligent. He gave appropriate judgments to every action. Now someone asked him, my dear king, you have such a large heart. You're so merciful. In fact, they were ready with pamphlets. Our merciful king. Putting up posters everywhere. They have already printed it out. So they said, my dear king, how is it? How is it that you have such mercy in your heart? The king said, I thought and thought about this a lot. And kings are trained to really think a lot in the shortest of time, in the smallest of time. Trained. They have to do that because they are leaders. So when I was in the chariot and I was told that the grandmother was trying to fell a mango, the stone, I thought the mango tree receives so much violence and still offers sweet fruits in return without having any negativity within it. If a tree that has the minimal of all emotions reciprocate in such ways, then as a human, we have to be more considerate of the facilities that we have, the intelligence that we have. As humans, we should have proper reasoning for every action that we perform. But Prabhupada would always ask us to chant Hare Krishna sincerely. See, chanting is an activity. It is a very, very helpful and powerful activity. Chanting sincerely is using our faculties as a human. Otherwise, we can see the recorder right now, it is also chanting. The recorder is simply doing it mechanically. The recorder does not have, the record player doesn't have the facility of intelligence. No discrimination. We have discrimination. We have the power to discriminate between what is helpful, what is not, what is favorable, what is not. Therefore, sincere practice is what indicates or gives credence to our existence as humans. Sincerity. Sincerity means we have chosen to be on the side of that which is favorable. And we have willingly given up the unfavorable. Correct? Hence, in the Gita, Krishna sometimes calls devotional service as Buddhi Yoga. Dadami Buddhi Yogantam. Yena mam upayantite. I give the intelligence, Prabhupada's translation. I wish they can come to me. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a beautiful story of a great saintly personality. His name is Thakur Haridas. Because of certain political situations in society, he had to be arrested. And the king really did not want any controversy in his kingdom. So he was not very eager to arrest Haridas. So he tried to get Haridas to do something that would be acceptable from his perspective. He said, Haridas, why don't you simply change your ways? That's it. And everything will be forgiven and forgotten. Haridas said, I would definitely follow your order. However, my entire existence simply does what it wants to do. That is chant Krishna's names. So the king said, then in that case, I have to punish you. So a part of the punishment was that Haridas Thakur would be sent to prison. Now this was a political prison. And most of the prisoners there were behind bars for political reasons. And the politics in those days was whether one should practice the chanting of the holy names or one should not practice the chanting of the holy names. So it was not very easy to practice chanting the holy names of the Lord. So all of them had been imprisoned because they had been found guilty of chanting the holy names of the Lord. So when they heard Thakur Haridas is going to come to the prison, the spirits were uplifted that the greatest of all saints, if he comes here, simply by seeing him, the pain of being in prison and the pain of imprisoned life, there will be some solace. There will be some relief. So Thakur Haridas comes into the prison and they see him and they feel so very comforted. They request him, please pray for us, please pray for us. Thakur Haridas says, yes, I pray that you always remain in this situation. And they're all shocked. He said, my dear sir, we are looking for some mercy. And it seems that you want us to be in this miserable situation always. Thakur Haridas said, no, please don't misunderstand me. Because you're here, you're constantly dependent on Krishna and you're constantly chanting the holy names of the Lord. Therefore, what I was praying for is that you always retain that consciousness, whether you're in prison or outside of prison. And when all of us hear that, we feel relieved. Okay, that was a good prayer. Otherwise, we would be wondering why Haridas Thakur is saying like that. And then we would be thinking that, oh, the great saintly personalities, they always pray for our benefit. So even in prison, it must be for our benefit. And that is the extent to which we'll use our intelligence. So Thakur Haridas had to clarify so that we don't misinterpret. Yes. So practicing Krishna consciousness also helps us remove the cloud of ignorance that suffocates our intelligence. The power to see philosophy in clarity. Hence, when we take up to the practice of Krishna consciousness, especially through the chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. We also remember that we do it sincerely. And we constantly remember that. There will be many distractions. Our sincerity can be bribed by many other activities that seem attractive. And we may purchase those moments of happiness in those activities which are sincerity, and then we may not have enough while chanting the holy names of the Lord. It is a chanting process that gives us the facility to sincerely do so many other services. So let us all pray that we sincerely chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. And before you ask me what is sincerity, I would again repeat what I said. That which helps us discriminate and take the side of everything favorable, and giving up everything unfavorable. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, or clarifications? Yes.
Why is there requirement if this year refrain from chanting?
Why were there political prisoners who were refrained from chanting the holy names? Because there was a large section of society that felt uncomfortable considering the chanting of the holy names to be alien and unacceptable. So there was a very strong narrative in society that if people chant the holy names of the Lord, especially the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then that is an alien process. And it is not recommended. It is against their conviction. So the king had to take note of all of that and understanding how much friction that created. Sometimes the king had to imprison such people. So imprison them. Is that all right? Yes. Hare Krishna.
You know that Janyaksha and Janyaksha were Jain within, and they come in every and take part like opposite of God and different roles like in the Shishupal and then Jagai and Mother. So when we are talking about the root, which Prahlad asked to remove all the seed of sinful activity. So how can we understand? Because they are then they are like who are eternally servitor of Lord, and definitely they take part like in the other side in the leelas. But I mean, then how can they be sinful? I'm sorry, but I'm not able to correlate all these things.
There is a book that Srila Prabhupada wrote, Light of the Bhagavad. It was one of the earliest books that he has written, The Light of the Bhagavad. Therein he gives an example of how rainwater is pure, and then it comes in contact with the surface of the earth, and there is loose mud, loose dirt. So now that gets what is it called as? When particulate matter is hanging in a liquid, suspended. So those dirt particles now in this particulate form are suspended in water, and water looks to be muddy. When you filter out the water, yes, or when you filter that muddy water, then all this particulate matter is filtered out and the water becomes pure again. So he uses that example to make us understand how the soul is always pure, but when it comes in contact with that, which is ignorance, either consciously or unconsciously. So this ignorance covers the ability of the soul to reflect upon its existence. And it gives a new vision to the soul. The new vision is that I am discovering. Okay? So even when the Supreme Lord's servants, in this case the doorkeepers, his associates, of their own choice, they come into this material world. They have to be here for 3 births, but somehow or the other it seems that each birth is in a different yuga. They never asked for birth in each yuga. So that's a coincidence. Okay. So it would be very difficult for them to not serve Vishnu. More difficult than, let us say, somebody who is not as closely associated with the Lord. I'm just trying to explain from the material point of view, because every soul has a unique relationship and with Krishna, and each relationship is as strong as the other in its unique way. But from the material point of view, we are taking some gradation. Oh, because they are the Lord's associates, and how did they do so? So because they are there, it would need a special kind of ignorance for them to go against the Lord. Okay. So Avaranatmika Shakti has to be special for them. The Prakshipatmika Shakti has to be special for them. These are the energies of Mahamaya that create a situation for the soul to be an illusion. So they were an illusion because of these energies of the day. And after the deal was done, the energy dissipated. The energy is like, it was time bound, you know. It's like they paid off their credits. Mortgage was done. So now they owned their property back again. Their property of consciousness, now they owned it fully again. So again, they become the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. Is it all right? Yeah.
When you're talking about thoughtful compassion, usually our compassion is always guided by emotions.
Yes.
How do we recognize that? I mean, it's guided by emotions and gradually bring awareness into it and not lose the compassion also.
So your question is that our compassion is reflected through our emotions, or it is guided by our emotions. And how do we get out of this to be more thoughtful in expressing our compassion? Is that the question? I'll just add an adjective to the statement you made. Our expression of consciousness is reflected through untrained emotions. So if you take training of what emotions are helpful and how do we express those emotions, then that becomes thoughtful compassion. Is that helpful? Yeah. Sorry, how to train the emotions?
It's very instinctive. The emotions are very impulsive.
Emotions are always impulsive, always. That is what emotions are supposed to be. You cannot have emotions to be very discriminative. For example, if a mother starts wondering, should I do this for the child? Doesn't work. A soldier starts wondering, is this what I have to do for my country? Doesn't work. A doctor starts discriminating. Will I be helpful to the patient or will I not be helpful to the patient? Doesn't work. Isn't it? So emotions have to be impulsive because that is what emotions are. Bhava is that which arises from your consciousness. Bhavana. So what your consciousness is, that is what you are going to express. Right? So we cannot restrict emotions in that sense. We have to understand that emotions flow. In our circumstances, these flow of emotions are stimulated by the surroundings that we have, which is called sangat, association. We see that happening, that is what we do. There are a lot of touching videos on social media. Those clips that come. So some time back, there was one, children see, children do. So if the children see the parents do one kind of activity which is not healthy, then most probably that is what they learn. And they see another kind of activity which is healthy, and that is what they learn. That was the idea of the film that was made. It was a small clip. Birth is a very, very, very strange situation. Birth gives you all resources in seed form. Birth gives you all resources in seed form. Now, as age passes, you have to learn how to cultivate that seed. If the association of society that we have in which we grow is trained to let your emotions fly with certain ideas of isms, Prabhupada would call that isms, this ism or that ism, then that is how naturally our emotions are going to manifest as an adult. But if it is trained like Prahlad's emotions are trained by Narada Muni through his discourses right since the womb, right since the time he was in the womb. So whatever he would hear, whatever narrative he would hear, that his perspective would not be swayed to the other side. And therefore his emotions were accordingly being displayed. But his father asked him, are you not scared of me? He said, the same Lord resides in your heart. Why should I be scared of you? Where are you getting this power from? The same place that you are getting your power from, I'm also getting my power from. See, that is the training that he had. Otherwise, he was like, I'm so sorry, I will never do this again. Or how dare you? Do you know who is Vishnu? That could be some of the reactions that normally people have in society. It is either fight or flight. Correct? So this option of akarmic, interaction, that only comes through satsang. So satsang is very important. A satsang does not mean just association of like-minded people. Satsang technically translated is association with the truth. 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 Can never be caught in duality. So if we are in a situation where there is satsang, we feel we are in satsang, but the mind is in duality, we are not associating with the truth most probably. Others may be, because they are not in duality. We are not. So training specifically for an embodied soul is through satsang. Adau shraddha tatha sadhu sang. Yes. Because only the intelligence can be trained. The mind cannot be trained. The mind can be subdued. From Sankhya, the Sankhya that we know. Now, in the outside world, they can say, no, train the mind, because their understanding of the mind is the intellectual aspect of one's personality. Very good. Any other questions or comments, clarifications? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.